I'm dreaming big here, okay? I'm dreaming really big.
Today we're joined by Brad Rodakowski, president of Prime Forest Products.
We try to focus our business on those niche markets that other people can't cater to. Sawmills that they can't get rid of the low grade, but we can take it and bring it in, dry it, service it, chop it up for a variety of different things where other people don't do it.
And Jeff Collins, plant manager for Prime Forest Remanufacturing.
No matter what we do in this life, we're in the people business. No matter how automated we try to make things, it takes boots on the ground and gloves on hands. And
we'll learn how this softwood remanufacturing business has grown, leading up to their recent acquisition of Rainier Custom Remanufacturing.
You're being like 20 or 30 years old, you've got a really bright future if you want to pursue the lumber business.
We're looking forward to this conversation and diving deep in the world of remanufacturing with Brad and Jeff Collins from the Prime Forest team. We're looking forward to this conversation, gentlemen, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
I've been in the wood business since 18 years old. Turned 18, my dad couldn't get me out of the house quick enough, so he sent me up to Puget Sound area to go work in a sawmill. And remember, we didn't have cell phones back then or internet or technology, so when you go away, you just kind of went away and that was it. You had no way to reach out other than a long distance phone call. And then I came back to Oregon here, started going to college, found a job working for another mill. So I ended up managing a night crew of 27 guys while I went to college during the day. So then you get out of college and you go, okay, what are you going to do for a living? Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll just stay with lumber because I know it because I've been around it for a number of years. And one thing evolves after another, after another. And then here I am today with the business that we have built up. So it's been a really good uh, growth trajectory that we've been able to do in the last 10 to 12 years. So it's going to be exciting to see where we're going to be in another 10 years.
Jeff, how about yourself, sir?
back in the 90s, I'd say, it's been almost a full 30 some years. I started working in the mills and, came in just a grunt, um, pulling chain, operating saws, took hold of the mechanical setup and operation of actually remanufacturing pretty well. Uh, Learned how to grade by the early 2000s. I was, managing a team for Willamette Industries, which, got bought out by Weyerhaeuser, which then led me to this plant here. I've been on this plant for 23 years. Came in as a machine operator, running the planer out there and grading. Trained most of my graders and operators, that work beneath me now. I just really like the nuts and bolts of fabricating and making stuff.
But I'd love to know, Jeff, since you started as a machine operator, what changes have undergone? Because there's been a lot of technological advances in the world of sawmilling since then.
For sure. But yeah, the technology piece of it has definitely been one to keep up with. And now here we are, we got computers, we're zooming, we're, remoting in from anywhere, which makes a lot of aspects of it easy. But when it comes to the physical manufacturing of it, it's definitely still hands on. You have to feel the wood, measure the wood,
It has advanced in a long ways. On another note, it still takes an operator to run that particular machine center. Granted, instead of having five people on there, maybe you end up with two or three. So that helps out to be able to take those extra bodies and use them elsewhere in the facility. And we always try to promote, within people to have them grow within the company because we want to give back in any way that we can. So the technology is something we're always looking at. Now, keep in mind, as far as Prime Forest Reman and Sweet Home, we just acquired it here at the beginning of the year. So my mind, I'm dreaming big here. Okay, I'm dreaming really big. Jeff has no idea how big I'm dreaming. So automation is a big part of it for sure. So we'll see where where it goes. But yeah, you can't ignore it. I mean, if you ignore it, you're fooling yourself, and your costs are going to be way high. It's a competitive market out there. So I'd like to think we're into a niche with what we do, and the automation is going to be a part of it. There's no doubt about it. When we say remanufacture, you have a sawmill that cuts a log, right, and makes things out of that log. We take those products, or some of those products, predominantly the clears that develop, and we'll bring it to our facility and further process it. So that's what we call remanufacturing. We are rehandling that wood and manufacturing it. We do products for big accounts. These are multi-million or billion dollar companies that buy 100% of their wood from us because the quality that we do, the consistency, the drying, the grading. So really what we do is all like go and visit these customers or a client. What is it that you're really looking for that's going to give you the best return on your investment on this wood pile? Well, if we can get a stick of wood that is this particular size, graded this particular way, that'll work for us best. I said, okay, well, let's put this in writing, which we do. I'll take it to Jeff. We'll sit down and we'll talk about it and say, yeah, we can do this for these guys. It might cost a little extra money, but they aren't going to have the downfall that they get from buying this other product. So in reality, they're saving money. We kind of have a captive audience because we're pulling a proprietary grade just for this particular client, which no one else knows about or that is doing or has the ability to do it. So that is one area that we've really been able to grow on these partners or partnership, I should say, in relationships with these particular clients. So yeah, Jeff's very instrumental on putting these grades together and saying, yeah, we can do it. When I'm in sales, yeah, we can do it. I have no problem. I'll bring it to Jeff. What are you thinking? We can't do that. Are you kidding me? How are you going to manage that? So I get backlash back and forth, but somewhere there's a balance that works for everybody. But that's one area I think that we stand out over our competition. There's no question about it.
100% custom reman for the specific needs of our customers. The more we can streamline for them, the more production they can recover, the higher the yields, whatever it may be. It kind of puts us in the front runner to provide that product for all those customers.
Let's paint with a broad stroke here for a little bit. So we heard you say what remanufacturing is. Now, when you've created your products, one of the key words I heard you say was the clear. Why does clear matter?
So we have a customer. He makes whiskey vats out of 3-inch thick by 6-inch and wider Douglas fir. He wants 16 to 20 foot in length. So when you make this barrel that is 10 or 12 feet in diameter, 16 feet long, they don't want to have any knots in it because the knots will eventually. So the knots have the potential to start leaking with the moisture in it. A Douglas fir tree, okay, as it grows up, it also grows out, right? And as that tree gets taller and taller, the sunlight all of a sudden over the years doesn't get to those lower branches. So those branches eventually die, and that tree is still growing straight up and out. And next thing you know, those branches fall off. And so that tree continues to grow and continues to grow outward and upward. And eventually that tree is going to get logged or it's going to get cut or it's going to die just by its natural state. So what we do in that Douglas fir log, there's like three predominant cuts in that log. You have the very tip of your log, which is where your dimension comes from with all that tight intergrown knot. You've got the second part of that log is where you get your timbers from, your 6x6 to 12x12 and wider box heart, because you have some knots in there. They're still structural. Most of the clears come out of that butt part of that log. And that's where those branches had fallen off and that tree continued to grow, right? So when we go and we cut that log, all of a sudden you go in there and you find this indicator, what we call. It's when you have that opening face of that log and you see a little indicator that looks like a knot. Well, that knot, most of the times, it's a dark ring knot because it's that branch that was dead as that tree grew out. So that branch fell off. So that dark ring knot, when you go and you kiln dry that wood, sometimes that knot will come out if it isn't an integral knot. So when I talk about this 3x random with clear, it's real easy on paper. Okay. But when it comes down to sourcing enough wood, knowing where to go buy that particular wood, or what mill's sawing the right log that's going to yield some of this 3-inch clear for us, it's who you know and how you're going to get in there, help give them some guidance. Well, cut this particular size for us. What doesn't make that clear grade, we'll take the fall down that that you develop, and we do it so we can get that clear grade. And yet the downfall, we have other places and other things to make out of it, so the mill is more inclined to make those specialty products for us where they won't do it with other people. So these whiskey vats that we do, they come to us and they buy 100% of the wood from us because they don't want a problem, they don't want to have any quality issues. So that's one of many things that we do, that we try to focus our business on those niche markets that other people can't cater to.
Where do you see a finger jointed clear being used in the real world?
Mostly in doors and cores.
Or flooring. You
Yeah.
know, they'll take a clear 2x4 that's a full, say, 2 inch by 4 inches wide. We'll finger joint it together different lengths, and it might be a 16-foot board with that might have 5 different lengths in that board that are finger jointed to get that 16 foot. And then we'll take them, we'll resaw that into two pieces of 1x4, and then we'll run it to a tongue and groove. And so if you've got a room that's 14 feet wide, and here comes this boards that are 16 feet long, and you can just put one piece down on that floor, and it looks like a number of pieces at once, right? But it's one solid piece because you have those finger joints in there. It's a look. It's installed quicker than individual short pieces, but that's one application that you use it for. And the other one is, like Jeff's saying, you do it for your door. You have your stiles, which is the pieces that go vertically on the edge of the doors. Then you have your rails that go across horizontal on the doors. Well, those side pieces and your rails, they look like they're solid wood. Most of them are all finger jointed material inside. Then they put a veneer on it to make it look like it's a solid piece.
Can you give me like a rundown on how you're marketing this product and how you guys are going out, not the whiskey barrel specifically, but the remanufacturing capabilities and how you're going out and finding customers like this?
It's nice to be diversified and have a little bit of outside customers coming in and wanting us to kiln dry and surface.
Upgraded planers. We've added dry kilns. We're a pretty versatile set of machineries. We've got molders, we've got finger joiners, we've got stackers, and we've got a big customer base that over the years has needed our facility to do their manufacturing. But as Brad said, prior to this acquisition of Prime Forest taking the plant over, they were 70% and truly wished to be more. And having talked about the marketing of remanufacturing, some of that is you have to keep that door open for versatility of other customers, other programs, because we've all seen these markets up and down, up and down. And what's great one day, you flash forward a few years and the market's just not even there for it. And so you have to always be prepared to bring in some other niche market, some other program, whatever it takes to basically keep the mill busy, keep people employed, right?
One of the things that Vadim got me on in joining the Koval team was his vision for improving the lives of the folks that work in facilities, not unlike yourself. And I mean, I think every single person I'm looking at on the screen has a family that eats because of this industry. And, you know, chicken nuggets aren't cheap these days.
You're right, Jessica, and just throwing it out there, when you go back in the 1980s, Oregon alone had 504 sawmills. Today we're hanging around 90. Okay, so we have more timber out there today than we did 50 years ago because of our reforestation. We're all environmentalists to a degree, right? But there is a balance to manage these forests to make them healthier, even for the wildlife, versus just letting them grow and have all this dead trees and stuff fall on the ground. And it's just fuel. And they wonder why we have these super hot fires that burn, thousands and thousands of acres. So there's demand for fiber, right? To build all these homes, and we're millions of homes short just for the USA. It doesn't include the rest of the world. So when we get into the clear fiber that we focus on, it is a niche market. There's only a few of us to do what we do. And yet I also look at that there's only so many hours in the day, right? So you kind of have to pick your battles. I'm 65, honestly. A lot of my buddies are hanging it up, right? And I've got Jeff, I've got my sales team. Most everybody here is, I think the oldest is 40. I guess I got one guy, sales guy, that's 50. But I'm doing it so we can pass this business on to the next generation, so they can build it up, they can pay their mortgages, take care of their families. So we listen to their input, so they're very important to us. And again, I wouldn't be here with you guys if it wasn't for them making all this happen. I'm just a facilitator to help give them some guidance as we move forward. But the future's bright. There's no doubt about it.
Brad, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. How did you build a team? And can you walk us back to when it was just you? You've had the inception, the idea. How did it go from an idea to do Prime to actually having a team? And how did you start building that culture that you have today?
I decided to start Prime Forest Products. I worked in the garage by myself for the first 2 years. Then next thing you know, I needed to hire an assistant, so I hired an assistant to help me out. And then I had my nephew come work for me from Virginia. He came out and I trained him. Next thing you know, I've got two more assistants, right? Then there's five of us here, and things just evolve. It's not like I sat there in the garage by myself. Okay, man, someday I'm going to have 50 employees. I'm going to have this remanufacturing plant. I'm going to do this and that. I mean, our office now is what used to be the barn when I was a kid growing up, but we remodeled it and put some paneling up, and here's the office. I mean, it just evolved.
I've been in
Um,
your office. It's actually beautiful. It's lovely what you did in there, and the exposed wood beams and the flooring. Everything looks wonderful. Well done on that barn transformation for sure.
yeah, thank you for that. If these walls could just talk.
Early days, you started in the garage. What were you doing in the garage? What was it that you were actually doing?
So when I was in the garage, I was doing all the traffic. I was doing all the inventory management. I was working with production. I was buying the wood. I was selling the wood. With the production guys, I would tell them what to make out of this wood that's coming in from so and so sawmill. And so you educate them, right? So it made a lot of road trips down to the plant, go see these clients, make sure that they were comfortable with me and kind of what I'm doing as we're moving forward.
How do you build a team? How did you know these were the right people for your team?
You have to go with your gut in a lot of situations. To hire my nephew, I just knew that there was a lot more opportunity to have the company grow that I couldn't do by myself. And so, okay, why don't we bring on Mark, for instance? He's young. I'm going to train him. And I think he has the ambition, he has the drive, he has good work ethics. And so I brought him on and it seemed to work, right? So he and I had our desk right next to each other for the first 6 months, and I would critique his phone calls. And eventually, he'd make his phone calls outside the office, so I could critique what he was saying. Now I don't know if he was talking to his girlfriend or what, but anyway. So then we end up hiring a couple of staff, and we'd go and have our Christmas function, or we'd go have a picnic in the summertime to help build this team, right? And then next thing you know, I've got 10 people, 12 people that come into the office here on a day to day basis. And we're real big about trying to get our employees to grow themselves. So, for instance, I want all my staff in here to take a wood grading class. Okay. So the company's going to pay for it, but that's something that we can do it together as a team. So when they see that team effort from an employer or from the owner, that it listen to what they have to say versus telling what they're going to do all the time, you gain a lot more respect. So people want to work here. They feel good about it. So again, things just kind of evolved the way they have. My wife has been really big about creating this culture for everybody, which is good, and we got great benefits to help the employees out as well. So, um, when you ask me how it happened, it just kind of grew that way. So the word's out there. So with the remanufacturing plant in Sweet Home, I want it to be on the map. I wanted people to pull up and I want to hear this wow factor from them when they see how clean it is and the fresh paint and new asphalt down on the ground and everything's really organized. And I want it to be in this town of Sweet Home or Lebanon that people know about Prime Forest products or Prime Forest Remanufacturing and they want to come work there. So we kind of have people standing in line versus us having to go out and find people that want to work in the industry. And I really think we're going to be able to do it. I really do.
Recruiting, which is a big topic and a challenging one at that in a lot of places in the wood products industry. Folks that we talk to, and people want to recruit, and they want to recruit great talent. And then Jeff, you wanted to share a couple of thoughts on recruitment.
It kind of goes back to the whole technology, right? I mean, in this day and age, no matter how automated we try to make things, in this specific industry, especially, it takes boots on the ground and gloves on hands, and the amount of people, men, women, or likewise, that are willing to put on those boots and come out in the weather and do some actual physical labor are fewer and farther in between. And you find it with all the trades, really, right? I mean, here we are, everybody was going to school and learning all these technological trades, and now we're starving for plumbers, we're starving for framers, and it's kind of the same thing here. You got to find that right guy that is willing to come down and do hard work. And like Brad said, his culture is primarily, what led me to even push and try. And we've been working at making this acquisition happen for so many years, right, Brad? And it's because I believe in what they're doing up there. I believe in, no matter what we do in this life, we're in the people business. It's managing and helping people have a better life, and just feel better about what they're doing, and to make this a place where people really want to come to work. Beat my door down to come here instead of the remanner up the road. There's a few of us still out there, and it's a competitive market in all aspects, the products market and your employee market. So
Jeff, what do you do as a leader that enables, people to be attracted to come to work for and at Prime?
I'll go down there, I'll grade lumber, I'll run a resaw, I'll do whatever it takes to help get things done when they're either lacking the help. I believe in leading by example is a huge key, and people wanting to help and be on the team, right? Um, Nobody wants a leader that just points and shouts and expects. You gotta get in there with them, and you gotta show that we're all after the same common goal, right? Whether it's getting the product out in the highest quality and on time and safely, or if it's just stopping everything to make sure something that isn't right gets corrected.
People love to hear is their own name. In the process of learning everybody's name, so when I go and greet them, I can say, "Hi, Tammy," or "Hi, Jim. How are you? How was your weekend?" hopefully it takes that barrier down a little bit, and the word gets out again in these small towns about Prime Forest Remanufacturing, how we're all kind of grew up from getting that sliver in our hand and the sawdust in our veins versus that silver spoon. Not even close. I mean, I actually put in my years and hard work, and so I just want them to know that, so they know that I'm on their level.
You're not corporate. You are a family owned business, and that makes you approachable. That makes the ownership visible. It's a different. It's not necessarily a different way of doing things, but it's a different way of doing things in the sense that we're used to the corporate, right?
100%, absolutely.
We're all in this thing together, and it's important that they feel like that they're actually serving a purpose and not just going through a motion and punching a clock. We share our product end games with them, like the whiskey vats. We've had people in here, marketing type people that did videos. I share those videos with them. Our window and door clients, we'll go down there and I'll, show them, hey, here's where, all of that 1x3 vertical grain went to, and here's, a product that it got made into. And, it just kind of helps grow the big picture around everything.
Could you share more about what is the dream, and then how do you relate it to the team so it's comprehensible, so they're able to buying into the dream, they're engaging, they're interested and wanting to stick with a company that has a future?
For my employees here, they want to hear that the company is growing and that it's not stagnant or losing its momentum, because then they start getting worried about their longevity and their job, right? So as long as we're growing and we're growing at a slow pace or a normal pace, whatever that is, so that we can stand behind and support everything that we're doing in our growth, I'm okay with that. Every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, we do a check-in at 8 o'clock about how was your weekend. Okay, we did good. This is what I did. Is there anything that we need to be aware of that made somebody had a difficult week? And so we know that we can support them throughout the week if we need to make them feel better, or have an understanding why they're off this day or that day. Um, and then what we do is we set goals for the week. What is your goal for this week? So like my goal this week is to get with my assistant and put together a layout of the kiln schedules. Okay, so it's something that we do as a team, and we keep track of who gets the most wins and the losses throughout the whole year. And then whoever gets the most wins, they get $1,000, right? So just to give me back things. So we really want to encourage you to have these goals, but make them very meaningful for yourself and somehow to pay back to the bottom line of the company. Um, so that keeps all of us connected as a team. And then my wife was really big about doing a sustainable garden. So we took an acre and put a garden out there for everybody a couple years ago. So now we want to double that garden because people like getting real vegetables and taking them home and cook them. So my wife's going, God, why don't we put a big garden down there in Sweet Home? I go, now who's going to manage that? It isn't going to be me. So anyway, but but she's just thinking again about how we can give back to our employees, right? Little things like that make a big difference. Because you're right, Jessica. The corporations today, they don't think that way. I swear, all they look at is that bottom line. Well, we like to give back to our employees because without them, we're not in business. So we're really good about doing it. And I also think that helps separate us from our competition based on what we do with our employees and how we give back to them.
How do you see how Sweet Home is going to be able to apply that culture that you've created of out of the box thinking, creativity to serving its customers, and especially, remanufacturing as something besides just resurfacing a 3-inch board?
It takes input from everybody, right? I mean, it really goes back to it's a family owned company. Everybody that's here is a person. It's not a number on a screen that's creating revenue per se, like corporations tend to look at things. And we have a versatile group of people from, all kinds of different walks of life. And like Brad said, you get their input on things, and weird, out of the box ideas come up.
We're the new kid on the block. We're in the big city. So we're down in the small community. And as you know, these people that grew up in these small communities don't want to have anything to do with the big city. Um, and so we have to prove ourselves, right? So just to let you know, the first thing we did, we went and hired some people to come in and repaint the whole break room, the bathrooms. We got new doors, we got new floors going in, we got a plumber there doing new things in the kitchen area. So we're trying to get back to our employees that, again, in theory, still gives back to the community in there. Will we put a garden in there? I think it'd just be awesome to put an acre or two and really have a nice garden, having somebody manage it, and it's we can pull the vegetables or whatever it is out of there, put it in the break room on the table. People can take it home. I mean, no one's done that before that I'm aware of. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it sure is a good vision just to show them that we really do care about everybody. We want to give back. The other thing is that we do on our lumber side is that we stand behind our product 110%. If a customer receives a shipment and there is something wrong with it, we will physically pick it up and bring it back and replace it to make sure it's exactly what they expected to buy. You have to realize a lot of these customers, whether 35% of what we do is export, we do a lot into Northern Africa, into Europe, up into Canada. So when somebody's on the other line on the phone say, "Hey, I want to buy a truck of your clear Douglas fir," they're paying a premium for that clear fiber. So they want to make sure what they're getting is on size, on grade. They get the wood, a month later or 2 months later. And if there's an issue with it, we'll stand behind it and make sure we make it right for them. And because of that, they're willing to continue on with us doing more business because they know that we're not trying to screw anybody just to get quick dollars, right? We want to make sure it's going to work for them and we build that relationship and that partnership long term. What we do, seriously, it is complicated. There are so many different items that we make. It has to be the right moisture. I've got a customer that we ship wood to every month. Every single load they get, they check it for case hardening. And what case hardening is that you have to make sure the moisture on the outside of that wood is the same moisture content in the middle of that wood because they use it for doors and windows. And if there's a truck they do this case hardening, it's a prong test is what they call it. So they cut the end of the wood and they put a V on this piece that they cut off and they let it sit there for 24 hours. If the piece goes like this and they touch, that means it's wetter on the inside than it was on the outside. If they let it sit for 24 hours and it just moves a little bit, that's an okay load. But when you ship a $50,000 truckload to a customer back there and he checks it for case hardening and it didn't pass the test, it's tough, man. I mean, you got to coordinate a truck that didn't include the freight. $5,000 freight. You got to bring it back to the plant. You got to see what went wrong. Okay, it needs to be reconditioned for whatever reason. Something happened on it, but they continue to do business with us because they know that we're trying to ship them the right product. Not everybody can do what we do. We're also human, right? I'd like to say we never do a mistake, but that isn't the case. But if we do, we sure like to make it right for the clients that are out there.
What are some common misconceptions that you encounter when people think of, oh, you're just in the lumber business?
When you say in the lumber business, most people think you sell 2x4 or 2x6 studs or framing lumber. I said, no, I do the industrial. So what I do anything from a closet rod, to to 5/4 by 12 bold nose stepping that you'll put in your house, exposed Doug fir steps. We do that. Um, we do flooring, beaded ceiling, paneling. We'll do a proprietary grade for a customer. We do finger joint blocks. We do panel stock for door companies where they physically make that door look like it's a solid piece of wood. We go to sawmills that they can't get rid of the low grade, but we can take it and bring it in, dry it, service it, chop it up for a variety of different things where other people don't do it. So the sawmills really like us to come and help them out. So when I tell people this, I get those eyebrows that cross each other, right? That's just a real quick version, you know. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's just, and you don't learn it overnight. I mean, it takes a rookie 3 to 7 years to start to grasp what we do for a living and how to do it.
Off of that, what kind of challenges do you have or trends in the realm of remanufacturing?
The thing is about Douglas fir, it's absolutely beautiful. It turns a reddish color after after a year. Just the way the UVs kind of come in the room and hit it. It's very durable. It's one of the stronger trees out there. One of our bigger markets is the Northeast for vertical grain Doug fir. So when you go back to Columbus Day, back then they came over from Europe and hit the northeast corner of America, and Doug fir was the strength of the tree, and it was long and it's clear, right? So it's just like the whiskey vat, to find another species that you can get 20-foot long, clear fiber, and it's straight. I don't know what species that is, other than Douglas fir, because the trees grow straight up and they're so big. Um, we also do mast and spar on occasion. So mast and spar for a sailboat. We'll do that in Sitka spruce and in Douglas fir. And that's 30 to 40-foot long clear lumber that they use. So that's another niche thing that we do. Um, and so really those kind of markets is what we're trying to focus on, not the commodity market, just that industrial millwork houses.
Can you touch on sustainability and what that really means for the Prime brand?
Sustainability, my wife is the guru when it comes to sustainability. We give back to the One Tree Planet, so we keep track of where all of our wood comes from: British Columbia, state of Oregon, Washington, the tribes, and we will give them money to plant twice as many trees as what they supplied for us. Um, yeah, for that year. And I know we're the only ones to do it. In fact, we've had a couple of different tribes hit us up and say, we've been in business for 20 years. You're the only company that's ever given back to us. So it's something to stand proud of. So we do it every year. And sometimes, it's hard to write that check. If you go and you look under our stakeholders um, information on our website, it'll tell you all about our sustainability. When you talk about culture, we went ahead and adopted 2-mile road out here in front of the office. So we get together twice a year as a crew. We just shut down the office and we all put our vests on. We go out there and pick up the garbage and stack it up. And that's another good way of giving back on the sustainability part. Now, the Carbon Disclosure Project, now we're keeping track of our carbon emissions from how many miles everybody's driving and going down the plant and back. And so that's a new area for us. It's a scope 3. We've already done scope 1, scope 2. Scope 3 is a whole different animal, but I think it's got a lot of momentum and a lot of credibility that, again, separates Prime Forest from our competitors. And I think we're way ahead of most people in the lumber industry with what we do as far as our sustainability efforts.
Forestry is truly is one of the best and most prominent renewable, truly renewable resources that we've got.
Jeff, that's absolutely right. And we're on a mission to improve the lives of the people in the wood industry globally, which is exactly aligned to what you guys were just both saying. So, I mean, with that, thank you so much for taking your time together to spend this time together and have a conversation around what you guys are doing in the business. In closing, is there any like 30 seconds worth of advice that you'd give your younger self or the younger people that are thinking about potentially entering the wood products business somewhere, and they're hearing this, they're hearing your story, Brad, they're inspired by what you were able to accomplish with Prime. What's that bit of advice that you may give your younger self?
You're being like 20 or 30 years old, you've got a really bright future if you want to if you want to pursue the lumber business. It's always changing. There's always opportunity. You can really grow and do well for yourself and provide for your family if you like to get in the lumber business. You can jump in your car and go visit a client, or you can go visit a sawmill versus having to stay in a cubicle 8 hours a day. So it's just a lot more enlightening. It's more refreshing, great opportunity, and there's just a tremendous amount of growth if you choose to stay in the wood business or try it out.
So to have young people like yourselves that could really open the minds of everybody out there in the many industries of just how renewable and sustainable forestry is. And also, as far as advice, just take care of each other and take care of your relationships and just help each other thrive, because we're all in this thing together.
So thank you for tuning in to the Wood World podcast. Now go out there, embrace the grain, and make your mark on the world of wood.
Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us.